All right, I guess this looks like the class.
Good enough.
So, so this is WordPress Site Management, or WordPress 2. For those of you who know, I gave a WordPress for Beginners class here about 6 months ago. Were you people here who taken that class? Which ones have taken the first class?
I came in for a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Oh, you're doing Farmdale? Okay, good. Good. All right. So, so we're not going to go over the material that I covered in that class. At least not a lot. You know, there may be some things that we'll touch on that we also covered in that class. But this is going to be more stuff. So we're not going to cover web hosting, not going to cover domains, not going to cover how to set up WordPress, any of that stuff. So we're going to dive right in, and like the thing says, how do I work this thing? So that's what we're going to cover. So tonight, this is the first time I'm giving this particular class, so you all get to be my guinea pigs. So we're kind of like, we'll work through it together. I have a PowerPoint, and then what we'll do is we're going to switch back and forth between the PowerPoint, and I have a brand new WordPress install that I made today, which has nothing on it, and we'll be using that. For those of you who want to look at it or follow along, it's example.pcqb.com. And we'll see how much we get through tonight. There's a lot of stuff to get through, and there's a lot of, you know, I could easily, I have about a half dozen topics, and I could easily talk for 2 hours on any one of them. So we'll try not to do that, and we'll try and cover all this. Anybody has any questions? Certainly feel free to ask at any time. If I'm saying something or you have any particular question, put up your hand, you know, ask a question. We're all about that, okay? So for those of you who don't know, my name is Gary Weiner. I have a small web development business called PCQB. That's my URL there. You can see here that the lazy point on this is just terrible.
Sorry.
Thanks. I bought this, it was $15.
Oh.
I can't complain too much. Anyway, so if you see there, the pcqb.com/class notes, that's the URL where I will put anything that we'll discuss tonight. I have links there from other classes, links to web resources and things like that. There's a link there to the Long Island WordPress group. I belong to the Long Island WordPress group. We're a bunch of people who get together and like to talk about WordPress once a month or so. It's completely free and anybody can join. It's all done through Meetup. Unfortunately and ironically, the Long Island WordPress group does not actually have their own website yet. It's not my.
Ironically.
I don't run it, so it's, you know, it's not up to me. You know, it was going to be a big project and then it never happened. So, but we do have a Facebook group. And if you go to the class notes page on my website, you will see a link to the Facebook group and a link to a bunch of other things and whatnot. Plus also, I do actually do this stuff for money, so if anybody's interested in paying me, you can contact me to do that anyway. Okay, so this is something we talked about last time. You will need to get started, a domain name and a hosting account. But if you don't want to get started with a domain name and a hosting account, you can get Local by Flywheel. The link to the Local by Flywheel is also on the class notes page. So anybody who, you can go there, click on it. That will allow you to run WordPress locally on your own machine without having to get a website or hosting account or anything like that. You can play around with it to your heart's content until you feel ready to go live on the internet. All right, so tonight we're going to talk about these half dozen topics. We're going to talk about the WordPress dashboard itself. We're going to talk about adding content to your website and all the various different ways we can do that. We're going to talk about working with menus. We're going to talk about finding and installing plugins and a little bit of how to work with them. Installing and switching themes. So we're going to install some themes and we're going to show you what happens to the website when we just go and put a different theme on there. What might happen, you don't know. And we'll talk a little about the WordPress Customizer, which is a way, a built-in WordPress way for you to do various types of settings. There are a lot of different things that were done through the WordPress dashboard that now you can do through the customizer, so you can do it both ways, and I'm going to show you both ways for at least some of those things. All right? The WordPress dashboard. Okay, so this is the WordPress dashboard. We get to the WordPress dashboard by going to whatever your domain is, /wp-admin. And this is true for pretty much all WordPress websites. Now, I'll give you a little caveat, there are some security plugins that you can install that will hide this. So if you go here, you'll go like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Some people think it makes your website more secure. I don't believe that, but for people who do believe that, whatever, you can install. There are various security plugins that will basically hide it, so it's not won't be a WP-admin. It'll be a Joe's login or whatever you want to call it. You can just move it around so it's in different spots. A little security by obscurity. But for tonight, we're just going to talk about WP-admin. All of my sites go to WP-admin. And you can see here, this is just a little bit of layout of the dashboard. This is what it looks like. You can see here the menu. You can see here when you first log in, you'll get this page, and we're going to show you that. You are tardy. It's all right. All right. So.
Just sort of. Okay.
So, what can we do on the dashboard? We're going to talk about these things that we can do on the WordPress dashboard. General settings, which include your title, taglines, whatever. Search engine visibility, permalinks, enabling and disabling comments and pings on your individual pages and posts, performing updates, and managing users and roles. So, now we will go to the website which I have created for you tonight. Switching back and forth is going to be a pain. It sucks to get old. I don't recommend it. All right. So this is example.pcqb.com. You can see this is exactly when you have a fresh install of WordPress, if you have familiarity with that, this is what it's going to look like. This is running the standard WordPress 2017 theme. This is the standard content that comes with it, and out of the box it'll call it like my blog, and my WordPress blog. A lot of times it'll say, just another WordPress site or some other stuff like that, depending on what you're installing this. So you can see we can type WP-admin. Okay. And this wants to put in my other password from my other website, because it shares the same with me. We're not going to do that. So you log in, you type in your username. You can see as we came up with the username admin. I don't suggest you use the username admin as your administrative login. I suggest you pick something else, anything else. But that is still the thing that WordPress, for a lot of WordPress installers, they'll give you that by default. So if you have something that has given you that by default, then I suggest that you change it. All right. My very secure password. I'll click on Remember Me. So if you click on Remember Me, it will remember you for a certain amount of time. Not forever, but at least you want to retype your password in every time you come back. And as we saw the dashboard before, now we see it here. No, I don't want to do that. Wrong person. All right. So here we have the dashboard. Looks exactly like the dashboard on the other page. This is what it looks like live. And you can see WordPress is going to say, welcome to your site. You can give you some things that you might want to do, customize your site, whatever. So look at that. If you have certain plugins installed, or depending on your theme, you may have more information here. A lot of stuff can get installed in this home page of the dashboard. For instance, information about your analytics or other things that you can control right from this kind of home page, dashboard home page. Okay. All right. So as you can see here on the dashboard, there's a whole menu down the side. We have home, posts, media, pages, comments, appearance, plugins, users, whatever. So we're going to go to settings first. And if you go to settings and general,
you'll see the first page of the settings. Now, one of the things that people often ask when you're messing around with WordPress is that my WordPress site is called something else. It's called My Blog, or it's called My WordPress Blog, or whatever. How do I change that? And this is where you change it right here. So right here, you can see here it says the title of your blog. This is the main title of your blog. This will show up here in this tab. This will show up in a lot of spots, you know, as far as your WordPress site. So it's important it should be what you want to call it. So for tonight, we're going to call it Babylon Test Site. And the tagline, which is used in some things, some themes, depending on what theme you have, may use that tagline. It may put it somewhere on your page. Some may not. So, but it's good to set it to something, because otherwise you're going to always be looking at it. So you might want to call it whatever. I've learned about WordPress. You can see here on this page also we have the WordPress address URL and the WordPress site URL. Never change these. It's kind of a pain that they put them right here. It's easy enough to accidentally click on it. If you change one of these by mistake, you will lose access to your WordPress website. Because it will try to go, for instance, if I change this to like example1.pcqb.com, it will try to go to example1.pcqb.com no matter what. Like even if I type in example, it will try to go to example 1, and then it will say there is no example 1, and I can't get in here to change it. How do you fix that? You go directly into the database and edit it directly. So if you're not interested in doing that, don't touch those settings. All right, more on the general settings. Nothing tremendously exciting here. There's an email address here. This is the address where you'll get all of the notification emails from the website. So someone logs in, attempts to log in, someone registers on your website, whatever, all those kind of notifications are going to go to that email. So you may have other email settings, other places in your WordPress site, but that's the main one. So that should be the person who's managing your site, or you, because that's the one you want to get that information from. Membership, anyone can register. Why would I want anyone to register? Well, it would depend. If I'm running, for instance, if I'm running a blog, you may want people to register so that they can make comments. If I'm running a store, you may want people to register because they can buy things. There's all sorts of reasons you may want, if you're running a membership site, all sorts of things. We're going to leave it unchecked. We don't want anyone to register for our website. User default role is subscriber. We'll talk more about roles later. Language. You can see the time zone. By default, it's set to UTC+0, which is Greenwich Mean. So if you're interested, you can just set your time to whatever your time, your local time is. So here, of course, it's Eastern. You would think they would make it easier to find, and they don't.
There it is.
Okay. Date format, time format, not that important. And then when we're done, always, we have to say save changes. Always in WordPress, whenever we're changing something, we generally have to push a blue button. On this page, it says save change. Okay. Easier reading settings. This is displays some information about how to do settings when people view your site. You can see here we have this information about a static page. We'll talk about that later. A lot of stuff is not that important except for this one. See this one right here? It says discourage search engines from indexing this site. Okay? So if I click that, it means that Google and Bing and all these other sites will not index my site as long as they agree to as long as they're being nice about it. So I'm going to check that because this site is not for public consumption, right? So if you're doing development and you're doing development, live out on the internet, which a lot of people do, and there's nothing wrong with that, you may want to check that box. That way people aren't going to be indexing your site until you're ready for it to happen. okay? Once your site is all ready to go, you want people to come there, then you come in, you uncheck that box, save it, and you'll then invite Google in to come and have a look at your website. Permalinks. Okay, this is a pretty important one, and it's a little complicated, so let's talk a little bit about it. What are permalinks? Permalinks are how we make the basically the URL, the web address of the individual posts, how they're going to, what we want them to be. So, for instance, it used to be by default, it was this setting, which is plain, which means that if your, say your about page was, had ID 5, that would be the URL. You'd have to link to it and go like example.p=p=5, or p=6, or p=10, and all of your posts and all of your pages would have that. Obviously, that's not very friendly. So it gives you some options here. So we have some different options for how to name. These options are basically for your posts, which we'll talk about in a minute. How are you going to name them? So, for instance, used to be the standard was like this, or like this. So the date would be in your URL. So, for instance, if I wrote a post that was best sandwiches in Babylon, and that was the title of the post, the URL would be example.com/2018/06/best sandwiches in Babylon, or something like that, right? Or you could put the date in there too. This is not very exact. But this one is the one that I normally use now, which is basically not to use the date, not to use the whatever. It's just, I find that it works, it's a little neater, especially if you're going to share the URL out. But if you're going to have a blog that's going to have a lot of posts, you may want to use may want to use the month, the day, the year, and the month, because then it'll give an idea of, like, if you do that post again, if you do one in 2018, you do one in 2019, you do one in whatever, you want to have different names for them so people can link to them separately. So for this one, we're just going to use post name. And we're going to see. All right, talk about discussion. Now, you may or may not want to have discussion on your website. It really opens up. It can be good and bad, right? So if you have discussion on your website, if you allow comments, right, it's good because people can engage with your post, right? You can have a conversation with your visitors, and that can be an excellent thing to help build your awareness for your website, get feedback about what people like about it, all sorts of things like that. You can engage with people. The downside is a lot of people are not nice. There are a lot of people who live to just be idiots on the internet. I'm sure I don't tell anybody that. And there's a lot of people there are a lot of spammers and such like that. So this is, if you're going to decide how this is going to work, this is how you set up your comments. This is default. This is about pings. This used to be a big thing until there was, where basically if I did a post and I linked to your post, you would get a notification for it, saying, "Oh, Gary linked to my post," and you could actually link back to my post. It's kind of like a, kind of reciprocal thing. Hey, we would automatically do that. And then spammers said, "Oh, we'll all do that," and then so now nobody does it. But here's the information about this. You can say, if you want to have comments, you can say comment author must fill out their name and email. Users must be registered and logged in to comment. Enable threaded comments. This will send you an email anytime anyone posts a comment. So what we're going to do is we're going to say users must be registered and logged in to comment. That way no one will be able to comment because we're not going to let anybody log in. There are other options for this. Information about avatars and stuff like that. We can talk a little bit about that later. But if you want to run comments on your website, there's a lot that's fairly complex. All right, so what else can we do from the dashboard? We went through a bunch of these settings. Let's also look at media settings really quick.
Can I ask a question about discussion settings?
Sure.
So if someone does post something that is inappropriate, can you take down that comment
Absolutely.
from the discussion settings?
Absolutely, not from the discussion settings. We'll show you.
Okay.
And here, if you look here, there's a menu item called comments. We'll just look at it real quick. And they gave you a sample comment, right? You can see this is the word. This is the sample one that comes with the blog, right? They didn't actually come and post this. So you have control here. You can trash it. You can say it's spam, right? You can actually edit the comment if you want. So this is your website and you have complete control over it, right? So if you have issues there, you can certainly do that. You can delete, someone posts something, you can delete it. But, like a lot of things, it's, you have to chase after it. So you allow comments on your website. It's not a fire and forget kind of thing. You have to chase after it. So here's the media settings. So this is just some basic ideas about how big your thumbnail and medium sizes are. But this is one that can confuse people. This says organize my uploads into month and year-based folders. I usually let this happen. And basically what it means is that under your uploads directory, it makes folders for year and month. And so if you're looking for your files there, that's where they're going to be. You can uncheck that, then they all just basically go in the same pot. All right, updates. Okay. Now if we look here, you can see that WordPress is telling me I have one update. Okay. It's interesting because I just installed this, but I apparently have one update. I thought I had to. It's slacking. I thought I would have to. I have another website that I actually do have updates on. I was going to show you, but I don't have to because it has one. So that number says up there is going to tell you you have updates to do. Okay, and you can get to them either by clicking on that. You can click over here. This updates. It's also telling you have one update, so it's hard to miss. If you have a lot of web hosting companies set it up so that if you have to do a WordPress update, then it will automatically do that for you. So they do auto updates for you. That's going to be good and bad. But if you had a WordPress update, it would also show up on this page. So here it's telling me I have one plugin, Ask-A-Man Anti-Spam, which needs an update. If there were themes that needed updating, it would show me that here. And it's telling me here you have the latest version of WordPress. So let's go ahead and do this update. Now it's always good to update, but you have to be careful because things, updates can break things, and it does happen. The best thing to do is have some sort of backup or whatnot. Now, obviously, me doing this one is not a big deal. This is asking about anti-spam. It's not even activated, so it's probably okay. You can see that it's updated. It does the update for me. So you should check this at least on a weekly basis and run these updates. If there's a major update, especially if it's a big plugin like WooCommerce or something like that, the version numbers will tell you a lot, right? So here we updated Ask-A-Man 4.0.3 to 4.0.8. So that's not a big update. The third decimal are generally minor updates. You can almost always do those without any issue. That includes WordPress as well. Those third decimal updates are almost always bug fixes, security updates, things like that. If it's in the second decimal, those are often major feature updates and things like that. So you can give it a little bit of a pause and try and figure out what it is they're doing. If it's the main number, that could be a major update, especially for something like WooCommerce or something like that. And so it's good to do a little homework about what the update means, right? What are they doing? And you can often go to the web page or it'll show you what the update is, and you can evaluate what we're going to do. So for instance, let's see. This is my other website. Go here. And you can see here what the details are. So for instance, it says, this one here has the same update, and you can click on it and get the details. And it says, you know, what updates we had. So it says here for this, we had improved grammar consistency, that sort of thing. So when you click on the details for each plugin, when you're going to update it, as long as they're plugins that come from the WordPress repository, you'll get an idea about what that update means. As I said in the last class, the most important thing you can do for any kind of a WordPress site as far as security is make sure it's updated. That's the #1 vector for bad things happening to your website. The other thing is that if this deals mostly with plugins that come from the WordPress repository, from WordPress.org/plugins. So if you have plugins that may come from somewhere else, they may not offer you this auto update functionality. Almost all of them do now. They're much better. As long as you have register it and whatever, they have some sort of auto update functionality. But you have to be prepared. Some of them may not, or they may have some other thing that you need to do. One of my clients runs a theme called the Bridge theme, Avada, and updating it is, I have to go like 5 places. It's a mess. But I don't know. They like it, so. All right, users and roles. As I said before, if you have an admin user, you should get rid of that admin user, or and create a new user who does not have the name admin. How would I do that? It goes through users. So if we go to users here on the dashboard, we can see that we have one user, which is me. So let's say I wanted to add a new user. You can just say, let's say you want to have somebody, okay, I have my website, but I want someone else to help me manage it. Now you don't want to give them your password, because that's always a bad idea. You want them to do things under their own name, especially if you have maybe a blog or a news site where you may have multiple people. You want each person to write under their own name. And so you would manage that through here. So for instance, I would go to add, let's say I wanted to add somebody new. Let's say I had someone who was an editor on my site. Let's say, email. Okay, and so this is the editor, so let's say this is Sally Jones, website. Okay. So now we have some options here. We've said Sally Jones, but we may say, okay, now the easiest thing to do is just to have this button here where it says, send the user an email about their account. Then you don't have to worry about passwords at all. The person, as long as you have given them the correct email address, will get an email from your website that will say, hi Sally, you have a new account on this website. Please click on this link and follow the link to set your password. That way they can set their own password. You never have to see it, and you don't have to worry about any of that nonsense about moving passwords around. If you really don't want to, so for instance, let's say you want to set it explicitly for whatever reason, you can click on Show Password and edit it manually. Okay, so you click on this Show Password. Get that. The other thing is the role. Now that's important. And roles in WordPress users can be very useful. So as I said, I would like Sally to be an editor on my website. I want her to be able to post. I want her to be able to edit other people's posts in case they posted something that I don't want them to post. You know, we're going to have whatever. So I wanted to give her those abilities. But I really don't want her to install plugins. I don't want her to do updates on the site. That's not her job. That's my job. So the easiest way to do it, instead of saying, Sally, please don't click on these buttons, is just to go, okay, we're going to set her role. So we're going to set her role to editor. As you can see here, we have these different roles. So administrator is my role, right? So administrator can do anything on the website. They can add plugins, they can mess with the theme, they can do anything on the website. Editor is another role that's a little bit of a step below administrator, and editors can do basically anything they can do with content. They can edit pages, they can edit posts, they can do all that kind of stuff that needs to get done. They can mess with the menus. There's different things they can do, but they can't do anything to the underlying guts of the site. They can't add more plugins, they can't update anything, they can't change the theme, all that stuff. And so that's a good role to give somebody who you want to help manage the content, but you don't want them touching anything else. Author is a step below editor, and all authors can do is make posts. So you have someone who's going to write for your blog or do something else. You can give them the author role. They can post, and that's all they can do. They can't edit anybody else's posts. They can't mess around with pages or anything. They can just edit their own posts. Contributor. Now, what a contributor do is they can make posts, but they can't publish them. So if you have someone who you're like, well, okay, write me something, and then I'll review it and I'll post it. I'll approve it. If you have some sort of editorial control, you can make them a contributor. And then subscriber is basically they have no abilities to change anything on the website. These are just some of the roles that you can have. These are the ones that come out of the box with WordPress. But other plugins will give you more roles. There are good plugins there are plugins that let you create roles and manage exactly what permissions you want to give to somebody granularly. This is very useful if you have certain plugins that you may want someone to change one thing in the plugin and not something else. WooCommerce has a shop manager role that they give you when you install WooCommerce, which is so you can give that role to somebody. Or you can use that role and you can edit other things. So roles are very powerful. And if you want to do something interesting with your website and you want to have different people do different things, that's how you do it. You enforce it using your roles. And right now we're gonna make Sally an editor, and we're gonna click Add New User, and there she is. Okay.
Why does it have a different email address?
Why does which one have a different email?
Edit person and,
Because theoretically, this is a different person, right? You can only have, like, this is actually not a real email address. This is the one that came kind of from the background. But each person in your users is a different. Each entry is a different person, and should have a unique email address, right? So this is Sally's email address. That's my other email address. This is my email address. If I had more people, they'd all have different email addresses because they're all different people. They can use it like this. Sally's going to get her email that I just, which is actually me. I just sent myself an email. Sally's going to get her email at this email address saying, "Congratulations, you have a new role at this new website. Click on this page. Click on this link to access it." They'll click on the link, set their password, and then they're off to the races. And so you can add as many people as you like to manage them. It's always good to keep an eye on this too. If your site has been compromised in some way, there may be people showing up on this list that you don't know. That's always a bad thing. And so you can delete them, or you can try and do more experimentation, whatever, see what's going on. Especially if there's extra administrators. Some plugins will add an administrator account and that won't tell you. And that's naughty. But you have to keep on top of these things. All right. So anything other questions before we go on about dashboard and settings or any of the stuff that we talked about? Good.
probably gonna get to it, but where do you back up the site?
That's not necessarily covered in this particular class, but if you had a backup, you would get a backup plugin that does backups, and can back it up either locally or whatever. Or you may have, if your web hosting account may do backups for you. My web hosting account does, I can set it to do automatic backups of the sites. So all of my sites get backed up once a week locally. And then I have another program that I use, which is called Manage WP, which automatically backs up all my client sites every day, off-site. And so if you were one of my clients and paid for my maintenance package, in addition to me looking at your website, I would be backing it up every day off-site. So if something bad happened, we could just revert to an older version or whatever. In that way, I don't really worry. When I do all my updates, I don't worry about it too much. I have backups from the day before. If anything ever goes wrong, I can always revert back. And it's good to have that. There are plugins you can get which will back up locally, which is fine. And then, or ones that'll back up to like your Dropbox or Google Drive or whatever. Those you often have to pay for. So. All right, adding and managing content. Wow. This one fast. This really took me 45 minutes to go over the thing. See, this is why I test this out. This is probably more, this is more than I wanted to talk about for the dashboard. All right, well, that's fine. This is all useful information, and maybe we can have a 2.1 if we don't get to the end. Adding and managing content. This is the thing people usually asked about when they say this is what we came for. So this part of it, we're going to talk about pages and posts, making your first post, featured images, working with images generally, categories and tags, adding new pages, setting the static page, which is what we talked about, we mentioned that a little bit earlier, and working with widgets. So let's get on with it. All right, so this was something we covered a little bit in the last class, and we'll just talk about it very quickly. There are pages and there are posts. We're going to go over posts first. Posts are generally news or other timely content. Pages are generally static type things. So for a post, like I said, if you have like a blog post or a news item or an article or an event, that would generally be a post. Whereas a page would be something like your staff page or your contact page, your directions page, your about page, services page, pricing page, those sort of things. It's not tremendously complicated if you think about how websites work, but some people get a little balled up. So I like to just kind of talk about it a little bit. Posts should generally be make a post. If you have new content, you should make another post. Obviously, if you made a bad post, you can delete it or edit it, but generally in the flow of the content creation, you should be making more new posts, not going back and editing old ones. Whereas pages, you can just edit them, keep the page structure the same.
Quick question. Is it possible, and excuse my ignorance if it is, and I'm just
That's
not
all right,
aware.
we're all here, we're all friends here.
Is it possible to have two blogs on the same site? I know when you post it, it archives it, it has the name, but if I wanted like separate blogs on the same site.
Separate in what way?
Okay, so for instance, one blog is called In the Spirit of Health, and
Right.
it's a devotional.
Right.
Another blog is a sexual health blog for women.
Okay. All right, well, those are very different. So
Yeah.
then you would definitely want to have two separate websites for them.
Also, I need two separate websites.
Right,
Okay.
but you can have more than one website on one hosting account. You just want two different domain names because those two are different. They have different audiences. There's different content. If you had two things which are, like for instance, if you had you wanted to have like a blog about I'm sorry, what were the things that you had said again? Say it again?
One was a spiritual devotional,
Right,
and one was a sexual health.
right. So if you wanted to have
So they're very
spiritual
different.
devotional, and then within that you had subcategories, you could have different pages for those subcategories of posts. We'll talk about categories in a minute. But you're going to want to have, for those two things which are quite different, you're definitely going to want to have different websites. So you'll have a different domain name. They can both go on the same hosting account. Usually you can host more than one website on a hosting account. But you'll want to have a separate domain name and perhaps different names for them and somewhat different design. They're quite different as far as audiences go. If you had two subjects which were closely related, you could probably put them on the same blog. But in my opinion, those aren't those.
Okay.
Okay? All right, so let's make our first post. Here we are, we have our new website, and we're going to make a post. So we go here to post, and we go here and we say add new. And this is our add post screen. And you can see here we have the title, we have the body, we have post format, don't worry about that. And you can see that where it says a draft, we just started it, and this one stuff I know we're talking about. So, how do we make a post? Well, first we want to have a title. And so what we'll do is we'll just, generate some random text. And so for the post, we'll call this my first post. It's pretty easy. And as you can see here, we put the title in. And since we set our permalinks to be just the title of the post, the URL of this is going to be example.pcqb.com, my first post. All right. And then we put some text in the body. We'll just copy some of this lorem ipsum. What? No, it's basically fake Latin. It's if you work in publishing, lorem ipsum is basically the way they do kind of Greek text. So you do that for like if you're doing like a layout, text layout, and you don't have the text yet, but you want to like have something there so you can see it. This is what you use, and so this is a little website that just generates it for you. And so let's throw it in there. All right. So. And now we're going to publish it, and we'll see what happens. Okay. So we can go here. We'll just do a right click. Here's our post. That's it. And if we go to the main page, you can see here it is on our main page, right above our hello world. Okay? It's pretty easy. Now what? Now what do we do? Well, almost all posts should have what we call a featured image. A featured image is basically the main image for the post. So let's make a new post. Let's call that second post. We'll put the same text in there. Okay. And we go down here and we say, we want a featured image. So let's go grab ourselves an image that we like. So this is a website called Unsplash. Unsplash has free images that you can use for your website. So we'll just go over here and we will download it.
use that as our featured image. So let's say set featured image. And we'll click here to say select files. Go here to our downloads file. And this is our Unsplash that we just did. Let's open. That's quite nice. Click on set featured image and publish it. And now let's go over here to our Babylon test site. We'll hit reload. And you can see now, put the featured image right there. That's quite nice. So that's the featured image is basically the title image for your individual posts. Okay? You don't have to use one, but it's good form. And so this is why you'll notice on, if you go to most blogs on the internet, will have at least something there, right? Even if they don't have anything that's specifically about their post. There was a really interesting thing that somebody wrote, I read on Reddit a month or so ago, about the famous gavel picture. You know, if you go and you read a blog and there's something about crime, often there's a picture of a gavel, because that's basically neutral, right? They want to illustrate it with something, they don't want it to be nothing. And if they don't have a picture of, you know, the perpetrator, or they don't have whatever, the picture of the gavel, like that tells you, okay, this is something about crime, something about that. So pictures don't necessarily have to be about the post itself, they can just be illustrative. And if you share, generally if you share this post on a social media site, that image will be used as the main image for whatever it is. If you share it on Facebook, if we share this post on Facebook, that would be the main image that people would see, along with the title and whatnot. Now what else can we do with this? Now inside the post, and we'll make another post, make a different featured image. And here we can see we uploaded that other picture before. So now you can just use it again without having to re-upload it. But since we used it on the other post before, we don't want to use that one. So we'll just use the one that we already uploaded. Now, also what we can do from here, if you don't want to do the search, you can do, you can just open up your File Explorer, go to Downloads, you can drag and drop the image, and it will automatically upload. So if you want to manage your images through your File Explorer or whatnot, especially if you're looking at it as with thumbnails, okay. Now what if we want another image on the inside? Well, here we can go Add Media, and we'll use this other post. And it will ask you how big of a picture do you want, so we can say large or full. Let's say, okay, we like this image, and we'll talk about that. Post, publish it, and now we can see on our main page, we have 3 posts. We put this post here inside the body of the image, and the second post. So that's basically it, okay? Now, what if you want to do some interesting things with the text? So we have a couple different ways we can work with that. One is that we can go into what we call the visual mode. Now, as you see here in the visual mode, this is kind of like a WYSIWYG, you know, kind of like a WordPress or something like that. And you can do things like, let's say I wanted to make this bold. I can just make that bold, okay? Let's say I wanted to put in a subhead. I can just do that and say, okay, this is, that's my subhead. And if I had a head below that, I could do heading 3 or heading 4. So you can basically work this like you would any word processor. The controls are somewhat rudimentary, and that's kind of by design. You can't really pick like a different font from here. You can't pick, you know, you can do bold, you can do italics, you can do left justify, right justify. You can do a read more tag, depending on website you might need that. You can do a link, so this is your link. So if I wanted to say link to Google here or something for some reason, I can highlight that, click on the link, and we'll just say, all right, we'll link to CNN because it's shorter. And in fact, in this little link window, you can do options, and you can say, oh, open this in a new link. So open it. So if someone clicks on it, it'll go in a different page.
You could also link to other pages on your site.
You can link to pages on your own site. You can link to pages on someone else's site. You can link to categories or posts or other things. So if you're writing a post and you say, okay, last year I wrote a post about this, you know, and now I'm updating it, you can say, you can check out my old post here, that sort of thing. So it's important also to see the difference, and this is something that people get a little confused about, the difference between the visual and the text mode of the editor. So now we're in the visual mode, as we said before. Visual mode, you can see that we did a bold, and then you can see the bold. We put the picture in, you can see the picture. But if we go to text mode, all we see is the code. So you can see here, this is the code for the image, right? This is the code for bold, where it says strong, and then /strong. Here is the code for the length that we put in. And you can add all this stuff in this mode as well. These buttons here also work. So if I wanted to use the text mode and put in a link or something, I could highlight some text, click on this link button, and I will get also a link window which will say, okay, now you want to link this other thing. You have more options on the other in the visual mode. But this can really be good. If you get a little confused about how things are working, why certain things don't look right, you can always look at this page. Even if you're not really, don't know much about HTML, a lot of times it's obvious about what's going wrong, right? So you can see that, for instance, if like you're missing the closing tag and all this is really big for some reason, that could be the reason. You can just delete this bit and try it all over again. Or if the closing tag for the link is not there, you know, the whole page will be a giant link. You know, that sort of thing. So it shouldn't happen because WordPress should prevent you from doing that, but it's possible to make a mistake and do it by accident. So this can really help you out in a lot of ways. And also, I'll show you something else about the visual mode. The visual mode works, like I said, somewhat like a word processor. And it has those same kind of functions. So for instance, let's make one more post. So here we are in visual mode. And let's go to, let's say, Wikipedia. this is not very exciting, but you can see here, get this. So now if we do a copy here, and we paste it in visual mode, you can see that we have the links have been copied over. In a lot of cases you'll see, so if we go to something that's a little bit more designer, let's go to So what happens sometimes, apparently not from these pages that I picked, is that you'll copy over the formatting. And that can be a good thing and a bad thing. So it can be a good thing if you want to kind of get a little heads up. If the page you're copying from has links and stuff on it, you can copy those links over. If it has some bolding and some other things, you can copy some of that over. But if you don't want to copy those things, you can often have a problem with it. You can often there's often this issue if you're copying from Microsoft Word. If you have formatting in your Microsoft Word document and you copy it into the visual mode, although some of that formatting will carry over, and not always necessarily in a good way. So it's important to look at that and go, like, maybe I want that. If that doesn't work, then you may want to post it in text mode. You'll just get the text, and you won't have to, and then you go in and style it yourself. There's a blog that I read, and I try to help the guy out. I don't know where he's posting it, where he's posting it from, but everything is all, the words just don't wrap. Whatever text he was using, whatever format he was using, they don't wrap. They just go straight across the page and then off the side of the page. And it's impossible to read. And so I sent him some suggestions, but it didn't really seem to help him. So.
Is it possible to strip the formatting in WordPress, or do you have to do that on the original?
Well, what you can do, so let's say, yeah. Let's get rid of this. What you can do is, like I said, you can go into text mode, and pasting it in text mode, all you get is a text, right? So then there's no formatting. Like we saw some formatting before, now there's no formatting. Now there's just the text. If you paste it in text mode, you just get the text. You don't get any formatting at all. So that's a very safe way to do it, and not be concerned that whatever, that you'll get some random formatting from whatever website or document you're posting it from. I had this issue with one of my guys that I work with, and I try to explain that to him all the time. I said, don't forget, I don't know if you know Tom Stock, he would post his poems from his Word, Microsoft Word documents, and they would be all jacked up. And I'd say, just click on the text tab, and then post it. And that was a bridge too far. It's all right, everyone has their own level.
So I have another quick question.
Sure.
I had an alarming situation today while I was writing my post. I accidentally hit the wrong key, and I hit the delete, and everything deleted. And I didn't know how to undo. Because I looked up in those buttons, and I didn't see anything for undo.
What do you mean, if you delete like this?
Like if you hit...
So like if you do, like if I'm here on this and I do...
let's say you delete part of it.
I did that. Oh, I did that. What do I do?
Yes, where did you get that undo from?
If you right-click, and this is a browser-based thing, not a WordPress thing. But if you do something and you're typing, almost always if you right-click, unless you're one of those crazy people who use a Macintosh, if you right-click, you get the undo. Now usually you only get one, right?
Yeah.
So you get one chance to save yourself. There's only one level of undo.
Okay.
What?
I said Control Z, that's my friend.
Right. So right-click undo will basically that usually will save you from one mistake.
Okay.
Because the truth is that until you hit this button, WordPress doesn't know really anything about your post, right? It's all happening in the browser, right? So you have to do stuff in the browser. Right? So that includes doing the right click or whatnot. Right? Once you hit post, then you can say, oh, I could, if you post something and then you make a mistake, like you do an update, there are revisions. You have revisions. So like we can do, if I did an update here, let's see if we have revisions turned on. It used to be down here, and now they don't anymore. You used to be able to have a revision. There are other ways to do it, where you can go back and you can see what's going on. This also is I'll just show you. This is this screen options thing here. If you're looking for something on your WordPress screen that's not there, look on this. And so this is going to tell you what's going to show on this page here as you're doing your editing. So it's like you can see here, unchecked is like excerpt. If you have a theme that uses excerpts, or you may want to have excerpts, you want to turn that on. Excerpt is basically a little tiny summary of your post. So if you have some theme that shows the excerpt, when it's showing all your blog posts, you can manually set that. Otherwise, it's just going to automatically take the first 100 characters or 200 characters or whatever. So you can edit that a little bit. Send track back, custom fields, and that. Discussion, so we were talking about comments and stuff before. If you turn the discussion on, then you'll see that down here, right? So here you can see now it says, I'm allowing comments on this page, and I'm allowing trackbacks and pingbacks. Comments will show you if there's any comments on the page, and you can edit them directly from this page if there are any. Slug will show you this, so you can edit. You can actually edit your URL if you want to. Author is useful if you're, like I said, if you have like a multi-author blog and you write this, but oh no, it wasn't me, it was actually Sally Jones, I can make her the author of this post. Some other things here on this page which may be useful to you. There's a date you can change. So by default, it's going to be the date that we did it, right? But you can change this date. So for instance, let's say I don't want to publish it today. I want to publish this tomorrow. But I'm not going to be around tomorrow because I'm going somewhere else. So I want this to automatically publish at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. I can just edit this date to tomorrow. Whatever. 9 o'clock. And now this is not going to show up on our main blog page until tomorrow. So there's a lot of useful kind of little tricks inside WordPress that you can use to kind of do this stuff. All right, so categories and tags. This is something we went into a little bit in the last class, and now I'm going to try and talk about it in a much more expansive way. We call these broadly, we call categories and tags taxonomies. Basically how you classify your posts. And these are very important to use. There's a kind of a subtle difference between them. So categories are broad groups of posts. Okay? So for instance, if I had a movie blog, I might have a category, where I did movie reviews. I might have like a drama category, comedy category, that sort of thing. So, if I was, say, reviewing Jurassic World, I might say, okay, this is sci-fi, right? And so I might categorize that as a sci-fi movie, or maybe an adventure movie, or maybe sci-fi and adventure. Because a post can have more than one category. They must have at least one. And if you don't give it one, WordPress will assign one for you. And you will notice that we didn't assign any categories on those posts that we did before, so they're all categorized as uncategorized. Uncategorized is the default category that comes with WordPress. And if you don't set a category, then everything will be uncategorized, defined as uncategorized. You can set that. You can go into the categories and create what the default category is, so that if you're not thinking about it, it will just assign a better category for you uncategorized. So first, let's say we were doing a new Jurassic World movie, and we're going to categorize it and tag. So category might be sci-fi, might be adventure, maybe a monster movie with dinosaurs, something like that. But tags would be something like, Chris Pratt. Maybe I want to tag that as a Chris Pratt, because Chris Pratt's not going to have his own category unless you have really like a Chris Pratt blog. You might say dinosaur. You're probably not going to be a lot of dinosaur movies, but that's a good thing for like a tag. Scary could be like a tag. It's not necessarily a category of movies, but it's a thing, something that might be interesting about it. Or you might say this was a good movie, so you could say it was good, or exciting, or whatever. So it's endless. So the thing is, you can have more than one category for a post, but you don't want to have too many, right? You don't want to over-categorize it, because then things get kind of lost, right? So if you have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, it's probably okay. More than that, you're certainly going to get overkill. But tags, you can have as many as you like, right? Or none, right? So you don't have to use tags if you don't want to. You can do it however you like. Categories are often used to filter and modify your posts as you're being published. So for instance, often you may have a page that has like different categories of posts on it. You may have one page that has your sci-fi stuff on it. You may have another one that has your drama stuff on it, or whatnot. But tags aren't generally used that way, although they can. Categories also have their own category automatic pages that are generated by WordPress, which are just posts with those individual categories on. And you can actually link to those from the menu or some other stuff like that. So,
Can I just ask you, how do tags function? Like what do you use them to do? Like if I put a bunch of tags, like I do like a school website, so if I tag, Play-Doh or whatever, the things the kids are doing, how do you use them within the site then?
well, it depends. It depends on your theme, and it depends on how you want to structure your content. So, in a lot of themes, they may have a list of all the tags. So, and this is going to vary from theme to theme. They may have a list of all the tags. Each post may have a list of all the tags. And so they can click on it.
And that's for the user to click on?
For the user to click
Okay.
on. They also help classify it as far as for Google. So Google may look at those tags and say, okay,
That's my